Maybe it's the kayfabe nature of the business, but it seems like rumors and professional wrestling are just drawn to each other, more so than any other industry. And between social media, the dirt sheets, and fans, well, it seems that sometimes rumors really turn out to be nothing more than just that. However, with that being said, sometimes it's fun to look back at all the rumors and see what could have been and what should have been, which is exactly what we're going to do, because today... A major thank you to my extremely kind Patreon supporters such as Edgar Perez and Jockside Armageddonator. Thank you so much. When it comes to professional wrestling, rumors tend to run rampant, and 2021 was definitely no exception to this. And with so many juicy pieces of gossip, this is just a mere sampling of 10 examples of rumors that should have happened, but there are definitely more, so if you can think of one that I'm not going to cover here in this video, please let me know down in the comments. And also, please make sure that you're subscribed to this channel. It really does help, and I can really use the support. Anyway, with that being said, let's just get on into it. Let's start things off with ROH, and something that if it happened, I would definitely have been on board for. With the future of Ring of Honor up in the air, especially after they released everyone from their contract, a lot of people are wondering what's next for the promotion. Now, it has been reported that their entire tape library is indeed up for sale if anybody is interested, and as soon as this came out, rumors were circulating abound over who exactly would be picking up this tape library, if anyone. And while everyone from WWE to New Japan was said to be interested, it's AEW that would be the most interesting. For you see, since All Elite Wrestling really isn't that old, they haven't accrued a lot of footage during their short time as a promotion. Although, if they were able to acquire all of Ring of Honor's footage, that would give them enough content to possibly make a streaming service of their very own. And with that, watching AEW would become even better for many fans, especially for ones in America who sorely miss the WWE network because the Peacock just isn't the same. But alas, this did not happen in 2021, and we're all still stuck having to buy AEW pay-per-views and trying to figure out what season of the Royal Rumble we're trying to watch. Alright, so that last entry was largely about the tape library which has documented all of the past of Ring of Honor, but how about we look forward to the future of professional wrestling? Parker Boudreaux was labeled as the next big thing. This was referred to as a spoiler by the one and only Paul Heyman, and when it comes to identifying the next big thing, well, he definitely would know. In fact, the Dangerous One also said to mark this tweet as a historical reference. Not only that, but Jim Ross also mentioned how AEW was very interested in him as well. Now, of course, all this buzz around Parker is definitely well warranted. He's an All-American football player, and just look at him, he looks like a major deal. And with NXT 2.0 looking for young college athletes, Boudreaux seems like he's right up their alley. However, flash forward a year from this tweet, and we find that Parker isn't quite living up to the hype. Sure, he is in NXT, but he's there under the name of Harlan, where he serves as Joe Gacy's henchman. And yes, it is understandable that Parker is new to the professional wrestling game, so it's not surprising that he isn't too far along in his career yet. However, we do have to look at Braun Breaker, who despite his family lineage only made his professional wrestling debut in October of 2020, and yet he's getting the exact kind of push that Parker seems to have been destined for. And so, after his endorsement from Paul Heyman while we were anticipating the next Brock, it seems we just got the next Curtis Axel. Now, I'm not trying to say that Boudreaux doesn't have a bright future ahead of him, because I'm sure he definitely does. My point of the matter is that we were promised he was going to be a major part of 2021, and instead that exact push that we were all expecting went to a different wrestler, so I just want to be clear about that. Alright, so this next entry could apply to a whole slew of different wrestlers, but instead we're going to be focusing on one in particular. One who's, well, one of a kind. A whole slew of wrestlers have been rumored to be going over to AEW, from Charlotte Flair to Kevin Owens and more. However, the major one that I think was a real possibility and also would have been really cool to see is none other than Rob Van Damn. Back during the Revolution pay-per-view, it was rumored that RVD would be the 6th mystery entrant in the face of the Revolution ladder match. Instead, we wound up getting All Ego Ethan Page, and Scorpio Sky would be the eventual winner of the bout. And while Ethan Page is definitely a solid talent, he hasn't earned the legendary status that RVD has, and nor is he on the level of surprise that many of the dirt sheets were promising us. Furthermore, on that exact same pay-per-view, many were saying that CM Punk was going to be the major signing that Big Show had mentioned. Instead, we got Christian Cage. But ever since his debut, Christian has been doing some really good work for the company. And not only that, we would get CM Punk debuting later on in the year. However, we never got Rob Van Dam in any capacity, and many of us are still waiting to see that happen. And I also have to point out that even if this does occur somewhere down the line, it would be pretty hard for them to top RVD making his AEW debut in a ladder match. And furthermore, Mr. Pay-Per-View isn't even with Impact Wrestling anymore, which is all the more reason why it would have been better if he just went All Elite instead. Now, amongst all the wrestling returns that have happened this year, there's still one that I think should have happened, but didn't. Sonjay Deville stepped away from her WWE in-ring career after losing a match to Mandy Rose, where the loser would have to stop wrestling. In reality, she had to take time off because she was the victim of an unfortunate crime, and would have to serve as a witness to stand trial. And with this being done through no fault of her own, it seems terrible that she has to stop wrestling as a result. And so, earlier this year, when there were rumors that she would be getting back into the ring, it seemed like it was about time. Now, in 2021, we did get to see her finally have a match again, albeit a handicap match where she really didn't do anything, and she hasn't done anything since. Now personally, I think it's really upsetting that this incident is the reason why Sonjay Deville isn't wrestling anymore, because I think she had a lot of potential in the ring and I can't wait to see her get back to it. It should have happened in 2021, but at least we can hope that'll happen soon. But on a brighter note, and speaking about another potential return to WWE that didn't happen this year, rumors were circulating that Chris Jericho would be returning to WWE, especially after appearing on Stone Cold's podcast. Now, many fans, including myself, are anxious to see Jericho go back to World Wrestling Entertainment, especially if it means him collecting a Hall of Fame induction, which he definitely deserves. But furthermore than that, it seems like Jericho has really just run his course in AEW. Not only are his matches not up to the caliber that we're used to from the Ayatollah of Rock and Rolla, but he's also done all he can for the company. Upon initially signing, he was able to give AEW a little bit of name recognition, and he served as their first ever world champion. But now Jericho is a bit older, and he's already had some significant feuds in All Elite Wrestling, and it would be a real shame if Jericho were to outstay his welcome, much like Flair when he started getting up there in years and started jobbing out to pretty much anyone, to the point where beating him really didn't even feel special anymore. Instead, it would be so much better if Y2J just returned home to WWE and get that Hall of Fame induction and call it a day. And I know this probably upsets some of you Jerichoholics out there, but if you ask me, I really want to see Y2J and his career in WWE. Speaking of wrestlers coming home, yet another wrestler who really should return back to their unofficial home, we have Samoa Joe. There were reports earlier that after Joe was unfortunately dismissed from WWE, that he would be going back to Impact. And while since re-signing, he has become NXT champion yet again, when it comes to the Samoan submission machine, it seems that his services probably would be better in the former TNA, especially since the company could really use his star power right about now. With Kurt Angle being retired, Sting, Christian, and Jay Lethal all being All Elite, and AJ Styles firmly in WWE, a lot of the faces that helped make TNA just aren't around to be in the company anymore. But with Joe being released, he had the perfect opportunity to go back to a company that could definitely use some nostalgia pops. And furthermore, with his seemingly never-ending string of injuries, it probably would be better if he would take it easy, as winning the NXT title only to then have to relinquish it is something we've definitely seen way too much of in recent years. But looking back on it, did we really gain anything significant from Samoa Joe re-signing with WWE? And with NXT 2.0 being what it is now, is there any place for him when he does return? And furthermore, would he not have been better off in Impact? Well, I say for Samoa Joe, the former TNA is definitely the place to be. And now it's time for a rumor concerning WWE's Women's Tag Team Championship, and unsurprisingly, it's about some missed opportunity. Going back to WrestleMania and the tag team turmoil match for the Women's Tag Team Championships, Billie Kay was going into the bout without a formal partner. And again, speculation was abound as to who could be filling this role. Some people thought that she might finally reunite with Peyton Royce. Others were expecting Bayley to fill the spot since she had nothing to do. But instead, we got Billie Kay teaming up with Carmella, which is something that nobody really wanted to see, especially since there was another perfectly good candidate that could have filled this role. Becky Lynch. With her and Seth taking time off after having a baby, it was perfectly understandable that Becky wouldn't be on TV for a while. But then, when Seth made his return to the company, a lot of people assumed that Becky wouldn't be far behind. Little did we realize we would have to wait to SummerSlam to finally see Becky Lynch come back. And when she did, she would do so by turning heel after squashing Bianca Belair. And so, for a lot of fans of The Man, it probably would have been better to have Becky come back at WrestleMania instead. Especially when you consider ever since she turned heel, it doesn't really seem like it's made that much of a difference. I mean, was it really worth squashing Bianca Belair? Well, I don't think so. And now we have to revisit a rumor from 2020, which somehow became a rumor again in 2021, but this time it had some pretty compelling evidence. With Wade Barrett rejoining WWE as a color commentator in the second part of 2020, there were a lot of people speculating that this could be leading to a Nexus reunion. But when we did see a group invade WWE and tear apart the ring, it turned out this was just Retribution, and not the Nexus, much to many people's dismay. Flash forward to 2021, and the former Darren Young did mention on a podcast that there were plans for the team to reunite in WWE, with Wade Barrett standing up from commentary in order to take charge so the group could take down Retribution once and for all. This was also corroborated on by Ryback, who did mention there were plans of reuniting the group. But if this were to happen the way Darren Young said, especially around WrestleMania time, that would have been a much more fun angle to watch. And now with Daniel Bryan, who's yet another member of the Nexus that is no longer with WWE, it seems even less likely that this is going to happen. Oh, and also let's remember that Bray Wyatt isn't there either. When it comes to WWE and Monday nights, there are a lot of people out there who feel that the show needs a shakeup, and a new face could definitely help to improve that. A few months ago, there were rumors that Finn Balor being drafted to Monday Night Raw would mean that he'd be taking the place of Drew McIntyre as the new face of the Red brand. There were those saying that Finn Balor was going to receive a major push, even though he did just lose to Roman Reigns. But in the time since, we have yet to see any of that pay off, with Big E being WWE Champion only to lose to Brock Lesnar, who is also now technically a babyface. Maybe at some point Finn will take that top spot, but it definitely didn't happen in 2021. But if WWE does decide to go ahead with this strategy, it will be a solid idea, but it probably would have been better if they didn't use his most marketable gimmick to job out to Roman Reigns. Now, when it comes to top faces who aren't holding any titles, no one really seems to stand out. But when it comes to those who do have a belt, well, it's not like Finn Balor's a part of that club either. Alright, so now let's go back to where we began, with the idea of two different companies working together for the greater good. Speaking of Daniel Bryan's exit from WWE, it was rumored that in order to try and keep him and in order to try and make him happy, WWE was trying to bridge the gap between themselves and New Japan Pro Wrestling. With his career beginning to come to a close, Daniel Bryan did mention that he really wanted to wrestle for New Japan. And so, in an attempt to try and entice him into re-signing, allegedly WWE was looking to start a working relationship with NJPW, with Nick Khan reportedly being in talks for WWE to be the official and exclusive American outlet for the company. This would mean that any working relationship with AEW would be completely off the table, as New Japan would only be able to work with WWE in the United States. Now, furthermore, it has long been reported that New Japan is definitely looking to tap into the American market, but for one reason or another, they were not able to get the footing that they really wanted to be successful going forward. forward. And so, by working with WWE, the biggest wrestling company in the United States and the biggest wrestling company in the entire world, that would definitely help New Japan get some exposure. But for one reason or another, these talks apparently fell through, as we did see New Japan working with AEW, even though many said that this would never happen. But as good as seeing All Elite Wrestling combined with New Japan, there are still a lot of fans who are going to wonder what would happen if WWE had closed that deal instead. We could have seen Nakamura reuniting with his former promotion, we could have seen AJ Styles reuniting with the Bullet Club, and we also might have been able to see the long-awaited dream match of John Cena versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. Yeah, I know this is a long shot, but could you imagine how cool it would have been if this had happened? Well, there you go, 10 rumors that should have happened in 2021, but what are some others that you could think of? Let me know down in the comments, and please make sure you're subscribed to this channel and that you give this video a big thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, Dave knows.